Hi everyone, today I'm going to be sharing with you all my yarn shopping experience in Berlin. Hi everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Knits. My name is Amy and here I talk about all things knitting, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about a weekend trip I took to Berlin. If you haven't heard, I am traveling for work. I'm in Europe for about a month and a half. I think I'm about halfway through my trip right now, and I'm trying to squeeze in some little weekend trips to visit some cities I haven't been to and of course go to some yarn shops I haven't been to. So last weekend I was able to drive over to Berlin. It's in driving distance from me. My husband actually flew in for the week and was able to come, which was super exciting, and we spent the whole weekend there, did some sightseeing, yarn shopping, ate some good food, so I'm going to talk about all that today. So on my trip I was able to go to two different yarn stores, the first being Wollen Berlin and the second being Knit Over Berlin. I know there are more yarn stores in that city. I was just not able to go to them all, but I'm excited to share with you what I thought of the two that I did go to. So I'm just going to run through our weekend itinerary. Friday was a day off from work for me, which was nice, so we were able to drive in a little bit early. We arrived at our hotel in the afternoon and there was still some time to go to Wollen Berlin because it was open I think until 7 on Fridays, which is awesome. I feel like my yarn stores at home, they close at 5 on the weekdays, which doesn't work if you work full-time, but I was really happy that I could still squeeze in some time to run over to the first yarn store. And Wollen Berlin is located near the Wedding stop on the U-Bahn, which is Berlin's sort of metro subway system. I had never used it before, but it was pretty easy to buy a ticket and read the maps and figure out how to get there. So I took the U-Bahn up to Wedding, and then from that stop it was maybe a 5-minute walk. The entrance to the store is set in a courtyard that you have to walk through a gate to get to, so it's not very obvious where the store is, but there is a nice sign and the sign tells you to go through the gate. So once you walk through there, you walk to the end of the courtyard and it's going to be on your left. You can start seeing the yarn through the windows as you walk through the courtyard, which is very inviting. And when you walk into the store, you're just greeted with this beautiful display of yarn in so many different colors. I feel like it's kind of color coordinated, kind of not, but it's just very pleasing to the eye to walk in. Now, this store had so many different yarn brands that I have been eager to try or know that I already love, including Sanis Garn, Filcolana. They had Retrosaria, Wool Dreamers, Knitting for Olive, Durarum Natura, Holskarn, BC Garn. I mean, the list goes on, and they also had a lot of hand-dyed options that I think were locally based as well. So when I walked in, I really just wanted to soak up all of the yarn, see what they had. So I think I spent a good like 20 minutes just walking around, touching things, looking at the colors, looking at the yarn brands. They had the new Petite Knit Pure Gint line, which was really nice to see in person. I was able to see all of the Knitting for Olive merino colors in person, which they had beautifully displayed in some crates, and it's just really nice to look at and to feel. Most of the store was sorted by brand, although they did have some areas that were sorted by fiber. For example, their silk mohairs, they all put together in one area of the shop. And once I browsed a bit, I was then able to start shopping, and I knew the first brand that I really wanted to try was Filcolana. I have tried some Filcolana before. I wanted to try some of their other yarns, so I headed straight to their Pernilla section. Pernilla is a DK or light DK and might even be considered sport weight yarn. It is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, and it has a nice spin. They had so many colors. I pulled out some of my favorites to then narrow down which one I would buy. I was interested in getting a sweater quantity, so I ended up going with this light gray color, and then I knew I wanted to get a matching mohair for it in the sweater quantity, so I headed over to the mohair section. I went straight for Filcolana's Tilia, and I almost thought that I wasn't going to pick up some for the gray because I couldn't find a good color match, but then I saw that this color silver was hiding in the corner and it clearly was the best match for my Pernilla yarn, so I picked up that Tilia in silver as well. I also headed over to the cotton section of the store, or the summer yarn section of the store, where they had their Filcolana Merci. Merci is a fingering weight, 50% cotton, 50% wool blend, and I similarly picked out some of my favorite colors from that line and then ended up picking this sort of light purple color, which I'll show you all up close in just a little bit. Some yarns that I didn't end up picking up included some of the Pure Gint just because of a cost difference. I was looking at the price, I think it says it's about 5 95 euros, and I do know it's going to be a little bit cheaper when I go to Oslo in a week, so I'm holding off on the Sandnesgarn until I get to Norway. I also really wanted to try the De Rerum Natura Gilead, which is a worsted weight wool, and you can see here the Gilead skeins are huge. I mean, it's worsted weight. I would need a very large amount to make a sweater out of, and then they're just so physically big. I just knew I couldn't fit them all in my luggage going home, so I had to pass on the Gilead. Maybe I'll buy some when I get home, even though it's going to be a little bit more expensive. I was also tempted to try some of the Holsgarn. They had Coast, but I just didn't end up picking up any, and walked away with a pretty good bag of yarn. I also got some hand-dyed options that I will show you guys in just a second. But yeah, so that was my Friday afternoon. I was able to, you know, shop on my own time. My husband stayed back in the hotel room to finish some remote work, but it was just a really nice way to start the weekend in Berlin. So I'll show you guys all those yarns I just bought up close, and I'll start with the Filcolana Pernilla. So like I said, this is the color light gray. This is a 50-gram ball, and you get 175 meters per 50 grams, which is why I think, you know, I think it's labeled DK on Ravelry, but I feel like it's more of a sport weight because of that yardage and the weight. This is color 954, and you can see the melange coming out. Looks really nice. It feels really soft. It's got a high twist and is pretty round, so I think it'll make a really nice comfy sweater. To pair with it, I did get the Filcolana Tilia in silver. So this is their silk mohair. It is 70% kid silk mohair, 30% silk. This is color 358, which is named silver, and you can see that it is a perfect match for the Pernilla. And the prices on the Filcolana, I feel like were pretty reasonable. I kept the receipt so I could share with you guys. So the Pernilla was 495 euros per skein, and the Tilia was 995 euros per skein. So I feel like pretty reasonable, especially for the Pernilla. I mean, this is like 5 euros per ball. That's a good deal. Also from Filcolana, I picked up some of their Alva. Alva is a lace weight 100% alpaca, which is really soft, and I just got a couple skeins to make some accessories, possibly some fingerless gloves or maybe a little neck scarf. I got this first color. This is called Pebbles. It's also a melange color. It's color number 979, and it's just like this really nice neutral kind of beigey brown color. And then I also got this color Bordeaux, which is just a deep burgundy red wine color, which I really like. And I think it'll look really pretty in the winter as a winter accessory. And this is color number 245. So I only got 2 skeins of each, so 4 total with these 2 colors. Should be enough to make a pair of penny gloves if I go with that pattern or something of a similar nature. Each skein of this was only 390 euros. Great deal. Great deal on the Filcolana here in Europe. If you live in Europe, you're lucky. Us Americans, not so lucky. Lastly, from Filcolana, I also picked up some of their Merci, which is a great summer fiber. It is a 50% superwash merino wool and 50% Pima cotton. And you get 200 meters per 50 grams in this one ball. This is Filcolana's old logo. They rebranded to that nicer looking black and white, but it's the same brand here, Filcolana. And this is color 1055, which is called Blue Violet. I really liked this color, and I surprised myself by buying it because I went in thinking I was gonna get a neutral, maybe like a gray or a cream for a summer t-shirt, but I ended up being really drawn to this light purple. I feel like it might be coming out more purple in camera, but in person, it's kind of a neutral. Like obviously it's blue and purple, but it's definitely not in your face blue and not in your face purple. It's more of a neutral color. I like the kind of melange effect. It's not labeled melange in the color name, but because it's half cotton, half merino, all of the Merci colors kind of have this heathering look, which is really nice, and I'm looking forward to using this next summer for a t-shirt. I got enough to get a long sleeve shirt out of this, which I think would be really cool to knit, so we'll see what I make in the future with this yarn. Oh, and one ball of the Merci was 675 euros. I also picked up some Retrosaria Mondim, which I've never used before. I've heard great things. Mondim is a fingering weight 100% Portuguese wool. A lot of people use this for socks, although some people don't like to use it for socks because there's no nylon and it's not superwash, so you could use it for anything that needs fingering weight yarn. I got this fun speckly color. They had a ton of really cool solid solid colors that were all beautiful, but I was just more drawn to getting something with some texture and excitement, especially if I'm making a pair of socks. I feel like this would make a cool pair of vanilla socks to try to see how I like the non-superwash feeling of wool socks. Maybe I'll be converted, I don't know. It doesn't have a color name, but it's color number 203. It's got all these speckles of pink and blue and gray on kind of a muted dark cream base. So this is 100 grams and you get 421 yards in 100 grams. So a lot of yardage in one little ball. This one ball cost me 10.95 euros at Wollen Berlin. And I couldn't walk away from this tour without some sort of locally based yarn or local hand-dyed options, and they had a good selection. They had a whole wall of hand-dyed skeins. And I noticed two of these brands were based in Germany. The first one is called Momonoki Yarn, and it does say on the label that it is hand-dyed in Germany. So I got this single skein of their 4-ply sock yarn in the color Fir Tree, which is such a beautiful tonal dark green, just a beautiful forest green. I think exactly what you would think of if you think of fir tree. And this is a 100 gram skein, 75% superwash merino, 25% polyamide, and you get 400 meters or 437 yards with this one skein. So just your classic 4-ply sock yarn. I think it'll have good use in my yarn collection. And then I couldn't not get this yarn when I saw this. So this is Kia's Garn, which is a hand-dyed yarn company based in Berlin. It does say on the label here, hand-dyed in Berlin, which is really cool. And this is their merino sock yarn. It is 100 grams, also looks like a 4-ply yarn, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 425 meters in this one skein. And this is the color Victoria. It's just such a beautiful in-your-face punchy pink, and I kind of want a beanie with it. Like, it would look really cute as a beanie, just like, I feel like you could spot me in a crowd from a mile away with a hat in this color. So this one was really nice. So these are my two Germany-based hand-dyed yarns I was really excited to get at Wollen Berlin. And that was everything I got at that first store. Don't worry, the second store I went to, I got less yarn. But as you can imagine, this store was the first European yarn store I was able to get to since arriving here. So you can imagine the excitement that I could pick up all of these yarns. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. So on Saturday, we're now moving into the next day of the weekend. Saturday was a full packed day where Nick and I tried to do as much sightseeing as we could while also going to the second yarn store. So just quickly, we did get to see, you know, the big hitters of Berlin, including the Brandenburg Gate. We saw the Reichstag Building from the outside. We didn't go in, you know, walked around, did some shopping, got some coffee and a nice breakfast near our hotel. And then we headed up to Yarn Over Berlin, which is kind of near Museum Island. I think it's closest to the Bode Museum, and it's also set back in a courtyard, so kind of difficult to find, but it's a beautiful space. You know, there's some restaurants in there and other shops, and you walk in, just beautiful foliage and plants, and it was hard to see the sign because it was this fabric sign that was blowing in the wind, but once I got in there, it was a really nice store to shop at. It's a little bit smaller in size compared to Wollen Berlin, but amazing selection. They had a lot of Isager, a lot of La Bien-Aimée, Malabrigo, Brooklyn Tweed. They also had some brands I had not heard of before, including Frida Fuchs, which is another hand-dyed based in Berlin brand, and Tuku Wool, which is a Finnish yarn brand. I was really eager to look at all of the Isager yarn. They had, I think, every Isager yarn that Isager carries in that store, which was really exciting, although I didn't end up picking any of the Isager up. I did go straight to the Frida Fuchs mini area where they had all these mini skeins set up in a beautiful display, and I kind of built my own mini set, which was really fun. They also had a really big book selection, and it was just a really nice place to shop. The workers there were really friendly, and I ended up walking away with just the minis. So let me show you the minis that I got at Yarn Over Berlin. I got mostly the 75% BFL, 25% nylon sock yarn in all of the minis. Here they are. I really like this palette that I kind of made up myself. It's kind of like very wintry, kind of winter forest. If I were to name this yarn color collection, I feel like winter forest gives a good description of it. Just cool tones, some neutrals, some colors. But this is the brand. This is the logo, Frieda Fuchs. I think Fuchs, I googled it, and it means fox in German, so hopefully that's accurate. And yeah, so these are their mini skeins, 75% BFL, 25% nylon, and it looks like a 4-ply yarn. These are 20 grams and you get 85 meters of fingering weight yarn. And yeah, I'm not gonna name all of the color names, but I'll just show you. This first one is like this really nice gray tonal. I also got this really pretty blue, like, so beautiful. I love tonal blues, especially when some of it's really dark and some of it's really light. Also got this cream neutral to sort of balance out the palette. And I got this cool kind of chocolatey brown color. And then I also got this green, which I realized after I left the store that it is not the same base as the other minis. This is their merino single ply, so it's 100% superwash merino, but it is just 1 ply. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bummed that I accidentally grabbed this instead of something in the 4-ply sock yarn, because now this mini set's kind of like not perfect, but it's fine, it's fine. I'm sure I'll figure out a way to use it, or I think I'm lucky that it's superwash because like I can put them all in the same project and not be afraid if I need to put them in the washing machine. If this was a non-superwash single ply, it would be game over. But regardless, I am really happy with all of these mini skeins. They each cost me 690 euros. And I was really excited to support another local business here in Berlin. So Yarn Over Berlin was the second and the last yarn store that I got to visit over my weekend there. Of course, there are more yarn stores that I wish I could have gone to, but just couldn't fit them all into the schedule. Nick and I had a great weekend for the rest of the trip. We did some other fun things, like we went to this place called the Illusium, which is an optical illusion-based museum. It was really cool. They had just a bunch of different things that you could look at, and they would explain the illusion to you. You know, things you could take pictures. I love the one where I look really, really short and Nick looks really, really tall. We also had some good food. We went to a bakery called Zeit für Brot, which was a recommendation that I picked up from Marlene Knits Berlin vlog, and I picked up a cinnamon roll and a pretzel. They are both amazing, so I'll also continue that recommendation if you're going to Berlin to go to that bakery. So yeah, it was a really fun trip, really excited that I got to pick up some yarn, and I'm glad I got to share this all with you guys. If there are more Berlin recommendations or yarn stores that you guys have, although I'm not going back anytime soon, put them in the comments in case anyone else wants to know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.